Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon where I'll be talking about the movies, TV shows, merchandising, theme parks, I don't know, whatever the case may be. If it's related to Disney in any shape or form, then yes, of course, I'll be talking about it. So I just want to do this because I want to talk about Walt Disney himself. I guess more specifically, like really early on in his career. Let me be more specific. It's something that gets overlooked quite often. At least it's something that not a whole lot of people would be willing to admit, really. And it's the fact that yes, Walt Disney himself had actually produced a lot of war stuff. Most to be more exact, a lot of pro-war stuff during World War II. He actually done this kind of thing. And it's just a lot of people would claim that Disney was never political before. Disney was never political. He never produced any heavy-handed stuff when it comes to political. He surely have. He really got into that kind of thing, which just often gets dismissed in this day and age. Yes, I do realize peer friend tells me is that talking about politics and the film industry can be really a dicey subject matter. It's something that gets really gets emotionally charged with a lot of people because they will automatically think that it's somehow going to be a bad thing. Personally speaking, folks, it just depends on the execution. I don't think it has to be a bad thing to talk about politics and whatnot. And yes, I do realize that some people out there can actually take it way too far. Anyway, yeah, Disney has quite a bit of involvement during World War II. I guess to be a bit more specific, between 1941 and 1945, during World War II, Walt Disney himself, when he was alive, was actually involved in the production of when it comes to films for the U.S. government, which, yes, of course, had got in contact with him, of course. The widespread familiarity with Walt Disney's productions actually benefited the United States government at the time in producing pro-American films or short, what have you, in an effort to increase for support for the war, to buy the bombs, I guess. However, that phrase went, of course. So this was definitely in reference to get material out there to fight against whoever the enemy was at the time. And yes, war is already very expensive as it is. This may come as a news flash for a lot of people out there. Yes, fighting a war will cost money. You need the supplies for the airplanes, for the tanks, for literally anything else, for the guns, and other many other things. So this can be a very costly thing for any nation involved. Literally any nation. It doesn't matter who that is, of course, fighting a war is costly for the nation itself. So, of course, the government would need money to, to sustain, to, to battle against whomever they deemed to be the enemy, whoever that might be. So, yes, and it will not be an easy thing to do so, quite obviously. So, anyway, the thing is that during the early 1990s, yes, it was the whole Walt Disney financial crisis, some ways, leading to World War II. The Walt Disney Studios, yes, even when he was alive, was on the verge of bankruptcy at the time because they were suffering the money. So I know last year Disney for the 100th anniversary, I know they were losing quite a bit of money when it came to their films. A lot of people seem to think that it was a recent thing, but that was not the case. A lot of people seem to have the misconception that last year during their 100th anniversary they were losing a lot of money. It's not a recent thing. This happened before. This kind of thing happened even before when Walt Disney was alive. Yes, even when Walt Disney was alive, the whole financial crisis, it was actually worse when he was alive. So yeah, just this didn't help his business at the time. It almost led him to bankruptcy and whatnot. So that was a thing. Quite obviously, in this day and age, the company itself has to fight against, of course, the used market. The used market itself, whether it's DD's, the House of Used, Goodwill, Rasputin, you name it, or even Amazon, just whoever sells used items, that alone makes a lot of money. The used market makes a ton of money just based on Disney stuff. It's just based on Disney stuff alone. I mean, yes, they make money from other items, of course. Many items does not relate to Disney does help the used market as well, of course. But that's besides the point. I'm not saying that the used market only benefits from the Disney stuff, but it does greatly help it. But the stuff that Disney is has brand new, they have to compete against that. They're still doing fairly well, even competing against that. I'm just saying. Just with Frozen alone, yeah, Frozen 1 and 2, anything related to that, the merchandising for Frozen 1 alone has already made a truck ton of money, new and used. So that definitely helps. It's because of the popularity that helps it, of course. I'm bringing the two movies of Frozen 1 and 2 up anyway because Walt Disney himself, he originally wanted to do the first Frozen film, but unfortunately, it never got in the way. So what prevented what prevented Walt Disney himself from making the first Frozen film? Easy. World War II. World War II got in the way, of course, and the whole thing with the financial crisis that we're facing at the time. So that pretty much put it in the back burner. So just delay after delay after delay. So Frozen 1 was pretty much left in deliberate limbo for almost a century before being officially made. 75 years. It took 75 years for Frozen to actually be made. The first one, anyway. Oh boy, that's a lot of time. It took almost 100 years for it actually to be done, of course. So yeah, I'm just putting it out there. Even the first Frozen film would have been released a hell of a lot long ago. Is one. Also, on top of that, let's just go back a bit because leading up to World War II, as I was saying, the Walt Disney Company studios were actually on the verge of bankruptcy. You'd be surprised at how many people don't even know that. Anyway, the Walt Disney Company was in trouble while the studios had entered the early 1940s with major profits from like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which had led to the high revenues, of course. Still got a lot of money from that, that's true, but it didn't exactly help them out, not by much. But the thing is that what another thing that a lot of people don't seem to realize is that Walt Disney, again when he was alive, had a tendency to use all the profits from the released films towards the production for new titles. And then not only that, in 1941, with the release of Fantasia, this policy led to the surreal economic loss within the company. Walt Disney himself has spent 4 times more than his planned budget on the production of Fantasia, which yes, bit him in the ass, so to speak, of course. However, Fantasia did not receive the attention that Walt Disney thought it might have, so the release of the film met with very low attendance from the movie going on is of very poor reviews. So yeah, that really cost him quite a bit of money because of that. So Fantasia was actually a box office bomb at the time. So I mean, even though Fantasia was later met with more positive reviews, but that was much at a later time. Initially, Fantasia pretty much met with really negative reviews at the time, and of course, like I said, that changed over the years quite obviously. But they needed the money right then and there, quite clearly. Moreover, what I'm trying to say is that the studio had lost quite a bit of money when it comes to in this day and age. Even I guess even though I just inflation and whatnot, other films like Pinocchio, yeah, the original Pinocchio, also failed to bring profits that Walt Disney had predicted and whatnot. And that's the thing. I know Fantasia and Pinocchio are often regarded as some of the best animated movies ever that they have produced, but yes, even Pinocchio at the time, doing its initial release, had also failed to bring in good profits. So yeah, that was actually a box office bomb at the time, I guess you can say. So there's that, unfortunately. And also, especially considering the fact with the whole thing with the war in Europe, which had prevented European moviegoers from seeing the film at the time, minimizing the studio's foreign money, I guess revenue, I guess you would say, with the extreme loss in profits and revenue, Walt Disney Studios unable to keep its large numbers of employees on payroll, which led to the layoff of many of its animators, which of course just complicated things even further. And yes, this also led to the labor strike as well of nearly half of the studio's remaining 800 employees in the spring of 1941. The strike went on for 4 weeks until Walt Disney agreed to join the labor union, as well as the fact that Walt Disney, of course, handled the sort of things when it comes to, of course, when it comes to this kind of a thing. In other words, when you think about making movies, that alone it can be considered as an investment in money. Like no kidding, it's a business. It's ultimately is a business. So making this kind of stuff is in fact investing your money into this thing, your product. You're hoping that your product will make more money for the company. Quite obviously. Again, you'd be surprised in how many people don't know that. You'd be surprised if people don't know that whatsoever. So yeah, there was this whole thing, of course, when it comes to the money and whatnot. So okay, so for the let me just wrap it up here, and let me just go to the more into the whole war stuff. Of course, during World War II, Walt Disney himself had made films, short animated shorts for every branch of the United States Army Forces and government. This was accomplished through using animation graphics by means of certain techniques, of course. And yes, obviously, Disney has its own style of animation, and of course, they pretty much were cranking this stuff out like crazy, quite obviously. So this was, of course, by means it was going to have a certain cost and whatnot. And yes, there was going to be the servicemen and the civilians for the cause of the war, and pretty much asking for some help and whatnot to buy the bombs, to buy the bonds, however you say that. Over 90% of what Disney employees were pretty much devoted to the production of training and producing these kinds of movies, shorts, what have you, for the United States government. Throughout the foundations of the war, Walt Disney himself had produced quite a bit of educational war films at most a cost, I guess, which was equal to spend of quite some time over the course of this kind of the thing, obviously. So, as well as producing films for the government divisions from 1942 through 1943, Walt Disney was asked to create some kind of animation for a series of pictures will be produced by Frank Coppola for the USA Army. This series included films such as shorts and whatnot. And this, of course, was intended for the soldiers, obviously, and whatnot. So this was definitely something that was supposed to be pro-war educational films that be sought out to educate Americans and children on the specifics of war. When it comes to political figures, countries, and such, on what it means to be a part of the war effort, what it means to be a part of American effort to be, have a family and whatnot, whether it be at the home front or the front lines. This will, of course, include animated shorts about getting drafted, ways to help the war effort, even from home. Even if you're just some ordinary average Joe, you can help out some kind of way, of course, and creating some kind of caricatures when it comes to political figures. And yes, of course, stuff like that. Well, this kind of stuff would be viewed as controversial nowadays, but there you go, I guess. I mean, I could go more into this, but that'll be for now, folks. As always, thanks for watching. See you.